wouldn't be able to put these things on if we didn't have financial sponsors. Which leads me into my next point. I think all of you have heard this 100 times, but if you paid to get in today, please consider becoming a member. We will refund the cost of your tickets for coming in today towards your membership. It's good for a year, and you can come to any of these History Hunter events. It's just a great way to support the museum, to help us with all of our financial needs. If you need to leave today, I know some people are on lunch breaks, please feel free just to slip out. Fritz and I have talked about this, so he won't take it personally, and I know that you have other commitments. We designed this right in the middle of the day so you can do something different on your lunch hour, but don't feel intimidated to leave. Our next History Hunter event is July 28th. James Alexander Thom, if you're familiar with that name, he wrote The Red Heart and Follow the River. He's a very well-known author, and The Red Heart is, that's the name of it, right? The Red Heart is about Francis Slocum. So he knows a lot about the area of Wabash. I talked to him on the phone. His mother was from Wabash, and he remembers coming here for a funeral, and the entire honor guard was made up of Civil War veterans. So I am so anxious to talk to this guy and to see what he remembers and to show him around Wabash and show him all the changes. But that's July 28th. It'll be at noon. He will also be speaking at the Honeywell Center in the evening on a completely different topic. He's going to talk about Francis Slocum and the whole experience that captives had. Most of them were similar to Francis Slocum, that they stuck around and assimilated into the Indian culture. One of his most famous books, Follow the River, is about an atypical experience of a captive who broke free and got home. Follow the River home.
I've read that book. I have.
Is it a good one?
Oh, I love it.
I've heard that. It's just a wonderful one. So that's what we'll be talking about here. And then the Honeywell Center is going to talk about the whole process of writing historical fiction, which I think is going to be a great topic. So that's a joint venture with the Honeywell House, the museum, the library, and the Historical Society. So it's nice that we're all working together on that one and bringing somebody great like him here. Yes?
That's the Honeywell House, not the Honeywell Center.
It's the Honeywell Center is where they're going to have it because of another event, but it's on behalf of the Honeywell House. Yeah. We have a Family Fun Day coming up in July. 2 days after this, he's going to be here on July. We're going to have a Family Fun Day. And that's just a time when we take a theme out of the museum and encourage people to bring their grandchildren, their kids.
I've talked to several people about that. No-till has really killed the artifacts because they just don't turn them up. Over, I talked to one guy that said that site over where I said Little Turtle's house was and the fortification was there. A guy used to come into town and pay those kids a nickel a piece for them, and they'd find them all day long on that site. So yeah, those days. I've talked to farmers who had buckets full of them. One guy said he threw it at the lake because he got tired of moving the bucket. And so, yeah, this has happened to a lot of them. But yeah, 700 sites, how many artifacts I found? Out of one. And whenever I would go back into a field, I'd be looking around thinking something would be poking out of the ground. But, a lot of it's been picked over too. And all those years of that being turned over. So there certainly isn't as many as there were 40, 50 years. Especially with a lot of times new ground being, plowed up. And those were healed a lot. They were made by the millions. And I don't think what most people realize too is when you find an artifact, you're probably looking at something 2,000 years old. But it could be 4,000, it could be 5,000 years old. Everyone always wants to attach it as Miami or Potawatomi. Miami and Potawatomi came here as mercenaries for LaSalle, and they were living in this region. This was Iroquois. Your roots are with the Iroquois people. They lived here for over 1,000 years. So basically anything you find is Iroquois. That's what you should think, not Potawatomi or not. But there's certainly more. I don't know if we'll get to our little phones, so I'm wasting out of time. But what it was going to show is just how they found the same skeletal type as they found over here, that with the same burial types, skeletal remains, artifacts, that it's not going too far out on the limb to say that they were the same people. And there's archaeologists that have said the same thing, that it was a circumpolar people, and they around anywhere from 7,000 BC to about 5,000 BC to 2,000 BC.
Fritz, how long is the film, the clip?
That's like 5 minutes.
Well, people need to leave if they need to leave, but would you guys like to see it? I think we should go ahead and show it, yeah.
Sure.
As long as you have.
I got
Hopefully I can get it there.
I got till 6:30.
And I should, before this starts, I should tell you, I don't know if I said this or not, but he is speaking tonight at the library as well, at 7 o'clock? 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Can everybody see this all right? There's no bird. This is what I briefly meant. These are charm stones, what I call charm stones. They're called things, but they're found throughout this region, but they're found all the way around the world. And so unique that it would be hard to believe that they're independent. This is my other films are on YouTube also. So. As it came at Wabash. In Fallen Angels, I have over 300 accounts of them finding large skeletons around the world. Most of them being in here in the Ohio Valley, though, and around also. Stuff around her eyes was a headdress, a bone headdress that had, somebody was wondering what that was. But then we can track these large skeletons to Japan, and in the book I have a trace of skeletons that we can track all the way across the Aleutians, those being of large size and some burial types that are common, not only in the west coast but here in the Ohio Valley. This is one where they found a large skeleton. There's several more on there. And all along the west coast, they're finding the exact same thing. They keep thinking they're finding the missing link because of these archaic type skulls that they're digging up. Oh. I'm about out of power. Okay.
When it's giant, what are you talking? 7 feet tall?
7, 9. And that last skull, you can see that, and then double row teeth again like the one in Michigan, they're finding the double row teeth over in on the west coast. And this is really an important. These artifacts, this type is what can all be mound. This is called a bar amulet. You would find that here in Wabash, and then you would find the plummets. Some of the artifacts they're finding on the west coast are identical to what we would find here in Indiana. Then we go to the other coast. Again, we're going to find the charm stones. So the whole, all these articles they're all in the book. These are just the headlines for them. And in Florida, we have this type of plummet. I can't read that. They're talking about another skull that was large size with double row teeth on the in northern Florida. You see the skeleton has no forehead. That's an actual recreation of one of the skulls from Louisiana, the coast. This is what's in break that dates to 3500 BC. But what's interesting is that those plummets are associated with it. Archaeologists have no idea who built it. However, we do have plummets, and we can trace those. Poverty Point, which is down in Louisiana, and again, there's plummets that were found there.
Were those tools or jewelry?
Jewelry. Well, some are about this big. So think of like a, a workman's plummet. But not really sure. This is a mound in Miamisburg, just to give you an idea how big they are. It's about a 2-hour drive from here. But also in the Ohio Valley, where we have all the large mounds and earthworks, there's more plummets. So there's certainly an association with those people that were coming in on the coast. And eventually what was going to be earthworks like this.
That proof around that one rock, was that something like what you hold up and do the pounding then, or?
No.
That rock one where there's several of them.
All of these would have been really small and ceremonial, but they would have no actual function to them, except as symbolic. That's my commercial. So, let's see where we're at here. There is one other thing that found, and these tribes that are generally around place, and that's something called haploX. It's a genetic marker that shows up in some scientific basis through genetics that we do know that there was a mix of the northern tribes with Asian people at one time. And even though archaeologists are Beringa, that's their thing. You know, anything other than Beringa will get you ousted out of the academic archaeological world. But it was interesting, in 1955, a guy named Spalding, who was one of the leading archaeologists at the time, that the ultimate origin of the Laurentian Peninsula, which inevitably is going to be Iroquois, need not concern us here, but it's surely in some sense a representative of the European, Siberian, North American cultural tradition of boreal. So even he is admitting it. Even though that is not what they believe, it was found that because they're Beringa, but he's even saying that yeah, there is a connection between these people. At one time, the Sioux, the Cherokee, and the Iroquois were one people. Linguistic studies show that the Cherokee and the Iroquois separated about 1500 BC. About the same time, where we really start seeing all the evidence that we were showing on those coasts matches up with that, and that the Sioux are also genetically traced. So 3,500 years ago, we're finding a split with these people. And in prehistoric Aboriginal Minnesota and their migrations from he listed, the derivation of these people, and you can see that the Dakota, the Sioux, provides the Biloxi, Iroquois, and Cherokee are right there with them. So if we're going to look at the Great Dynasty that's going to go from Maine to Florida to the Ohio Valley, with certainly all the earthworks in the Ohio Valley, it would make more sense. Cherokee in the southeast, Iroquois up here, the Sioux in the Ohio Valley, and that's what constituted the Great Hopewell Dynasty of burial mounds and earthworks. You got to see with the seed mound. So we're not going to go into the geometrics and all that because it's incredible what's in southern Ohio. And this is somebody that linked Peninsula Iroquois to, or Point Peninsula, not Iroquois, but Peninsula to Iroquois. So there is some basis for that. And I just want to show you one last slide here. This is what I talked about. Who are the Hopewell? Where they come from? African archaeologists ain't going to tell you. They don't know. They don't know. It's just like it's not part of the paradigm of what they speak about. They're not talking about tribes. They don't want to do that. They'll talk about focuses and things like that, but they're not going to talk about tribes. But Catlin said of the Sioux, all said they came from the Ohio Valley and the Wabash. So the Wabash is mentioned in there. And then others, they talk about the Osage and the Omaha, and that they are from the Ohio and read in their Fourth Point Wabash Valleys here. So they're saying they came from here. And it's to know that Catlin also said that the Osage were the tallest race of men in North America, and that they were over 6 feet. Very few were under. So if we're going to put skeletal types, who's tall? The Osage. Who has legends that they came from the Ohio and Wabash? The Osage or the Sioux. When the Iroquois, since they're related to them, we can throw them in too. So we have the evidence. We know, now you know, who these people were. They were Iroquois. Iroquois in the north, and then when we sack south, we'll get into more Sioux. And one archaeologist up in Minnesota, they have a different game in Minnesota. They preserve everything in Minnesota. They don't dig into any of the Minnesota. They don't touch them. But he even said the ancestral homes of many Sioux-speaking Indians, such as the Teton, Yankee, and Zimmerman, migrated down the Ohio rivers to the general city of Philadelphia. And that the burial mounds in most of southern Minnesota were Sioux-speaking, and they had originated from the valley. So I'm not alone. There is one archaeologist out there that's saying, yeah, we know who these people were. They're Sioux, to the south. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's another half to this, but that's all in the book about Southern geometric earthworks and mathematics that was built to create those, but that would be another hour. So, since nobody seems to be interrupting, if you have more questions, we'd be more than happy to answer those.
How do you go about getting the preservation in this area for the mounds? Too complicated, huh?
Yeah, well, I would say that would possibly, I don't know if you, see, that's that donut hole that I'm talking about. If it's a structure, you know where to go, right? You listed but I would say a movement to put it on the historic register possibly. But you have to do now, Newcastle, Indiana, inside up there, that these are circular earthworks with outer walls, interior ditches that are always aligned with solar. And university archaeologists have just nearly obliterated. There's so much of it that's left. But they are now moving to a travel destination. It really is. These are monstrous earthworks, symmetrical, 8 of them on a high plateau. So they're working, and the first thing they get started with is sure that the archaeologists don't touch it. They're going to go to possibly getting the land from the state because the state owned land, but they're making moves to preserve that site. So that's what they've done. So I went down there and I met with their travel and tourism people after I gave a talk like this, and then so that was where they were starting. But you're kind of off the radar a little bit with earthworks and everything that you have here, archaeologists, obviously. I mean, a lady did an archaeological survey of the Eagle River, didn't know about the weir, but you know, why wouldn't you want to include that flavor, that history, that link to 2000 BC, to have a sign of fish weir or this, or when somebody goes to Mississippi battlefield to go there and look at, you know, to have some care or a sign, or you know, that's part of what it is.
Did you check with, like, did you say Wisconsin has theirs all preserved?
Yeah, well, the archaeologists aren't digging up. They're so close to the tree sue people that they don't dare do it. Here, you know, they don't name any kind of tribal affiliation, so they feel like they have every right to dig up what they want. So they've desecrated graves. Even recently, even though they say they don't, they still do. But I know the first thing to do is go find them, and then you know, you start with the state. Hate to get the state, hate to get any kind of government involved with anything. I would think a grassroots effort to keep the state out of it, to preserve it, and you know, you're going to find it. If everybody knows about it, no one will destroy it, because if they see somebody going back to something, they'll know where they're going. So, but yeah, at least you know those couple signs that you have a sign or something. Yeah.
Your program is an extension of this, the longer version?
Well,
At the library?
I thought about just going the second half. I mean, basically just have to go up the slides. So I didn't know, because this will be your history. The book's in 2 parts. There's this part, and all the mounds, earthworks in the Ohio Valley, and those were. But well, I don't know how to word this. I'm not.
Well, should we?
Yes. Do, because I'll do the other half. I'll do the other half. And even this, you know, if I was going to come, there's a guy going to come and talk about Neanderthal like people in Wabash County, you would think that I'm a bit crazy. I mean, I would if somebody told me that. But as you can see, there's information to back that up. You know, I'm not really giving theories. I'm really just saying what other people have written about, you know, showing you skeletal things. But yeah, I got like 4 hours to tweak a new speech for tonight. Why don't we do that? So if you want to do and hear about numerology and how to do high math, square root, pi, and then we're we're utilizing that in the construction of the earthworks in the Ohio Valley. And large skeletons also are found in that region. So more so than even up here, but it's a different era once we get down there. So that would only be 30, 40 miles south. We're going to get into a whole different game because we're going to go into circles and squares. A circle and a square with the same area, meaning they would have had to know how to square a circle. I got through college taking basic algebra, which I barely got through, but squaring a circle, I don't know if I can pull that one off. But interesting, and then the same numbers will show up in all these works. So yes, I'll do the second half of it tonight. So yeah, tonight. So well, prehistoric men, Cro-Magnon have been found 6'6", 6'8", almost 7 foot. So dating 7,000 BC. So we shrank and then we got taller again. So now we're kind of on our way back up. But at one time, men were big. Tigers were big. Bears were big. Look at all the things that were big around the Ice Age. So why wouldn't it be big? So there's all these different animals, large size around the Ice Age. Cro-Magnon's right around the Ice Age. So whatever was making those other people big. But they weren't aliens or not a reptile race, nothing like that. I mean, everything can be kind of explained scientifically, which I get a lot of reptilian theories. If anybody wants the books, the Giants book, title of the Giants book, The Fallen Angels, which is what we'll talk about tonight, I guess, is $25, and the Mound Guide, which is 83 sites in Indiana, but 222 sites overall. So all the mounds and earthworks throughout southern Ohio and West Virginia, and all the geometric earthworks are all in here. This is 20, but if you get both, it's 40. So volume 1 is like 2 for $40. You would be surprised how close you are to so many earthworks around here, or if you just want to make that push into Ohio, or Winchester, Indiana, Anderson, Newcastle. All those places have earthworks that you can go and see. Everybody knows about them.
Thank you so much, Fritz.